Through smoke and starlight. Cale Thorne had traveled 3 months across barren deserts and treacherous mountain passes to reach the celestial Pyre Kingdom, a realm where beings of living flame ruled with ancient magic. His leather satchel carried worn notebooks filled with sketches and theories about fire magic, his life's obsession. The kingdom's famous archives supposedly held manuscripts dating back millennia, knowledge he desperately needed to complete his research. The kingdom materialized like a mirage at sunset, towering spires of obsidian and gold, bridges of crystallized flame connecting floating platforms, and citizens whose hair flickered with warm light. Guards at the gateway examined him with glowing amber eyes before waving him through, clearly amused by the curious human scholar. Cale wandered the market district, marveling at everything. Vendors sold bottled starfire and phoenix feathers. Children played, leaving trails of harmless sparks. He was sketching a particularly fascinating flame fountain when screams erupted from the palace district. The observatory tower, a magnificent structure of glass and metal, was engulfed in unnatural purple flames. Unlike the controlled fires throughout the kingdom, these flames writhed with malevolent intelligence, forming serpentine shapes that struck at fleeing courtiers. "The princess is still inside," someone shouted. Cale's feet moved before his mind caught up. He sprinted toward the tower, ignoring the guards trying to contain the chaos. The heat intensified with each step, but he pressed forward, wrapping his cloak around his face. Through smoke-filled corridors, he heard coughing. She was collapsed near a window, her normally radiant skin dimmed to barely glowing embers. Her gown was torn, revealing burns along her arms. Despite her weakened state, she was beautiful, sharp features softened by pain, silver-white hair tangled with ash. "Hold on," Cale gasped, lifting her carefully. She was lighter than expected, her body warm but not burning. Her eyes fluttered open, deep crimson irises that widened in surprise at seeing a human. A flame beast materialized, blocking their escape route. It roared, its body pure violet fire shaped like a hunting cat. Cale pivoted, shielding the princess with his body as the creature lunged. Pain seared across his back, but he pushed through, finding a servant stairwell. They tumbled into the courtyard as the tower groaned. Cale covered her body with his as debris rained down. When the dust settled, royal guards surrounded them, staring in disbelief. A woman emerged from the crowd, tall and regal, wearing a crown of dancing flames. Queen Myrithis surveyed the scene with calculating eyes that missed nothing. Her daughter safe in a human's protective embrace, the stranger's scorched clothing, the way Valdara's hand clutched his shirt. The queen's lips curved into an enigmatic smile. "Then you'll marry her, human." Bound by flame and fate. Cale woke in chambers far too luxurious for a wandering scholar. Silk sheets, walls carved from volcanic glass, and a balcony overlooking the kingdom's eternal sunset. His burns had been treated with salves that left his skin tingling. A servant informed him the queen expected his presence at breakfast. The royal dining hall was intimate, designed for family rather than court. Queen Myrithis sat at the head, while Valdara occupied a chair to her right, looking considerably healthier. Her hair was braided with golden threads, her gown the color of embers. She met his eyes briefly before looking away, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "The law is ancient but absolute," the queen explained, pouring tea that steamed with actual flames. "My daughter's life debt can only be repaid through marriage. You saved her when our own people hesitated. Such bravery deserves acknowledgement." Cale tried to process this. "Your Majesty, I acted on instinct. Surely there's another way." "There isn't." Valdara's voice was soft but firm. "I don't expect you to understand our customs immediately, but the law binds us both now. The wedding will occur in 3 weeks, after you've learned our basic traditions." The following days blurred together. Valdara became his reluctant teacher, showing him how to navigate palace life. She explained that celestial beings drew power from stellar energy, that their flames couldn't harm those they trusted, that emotions influenced their luminosity. During one lesson in the palace gardens, Valdara demonstrated basic fire weaving. Her hands moved gracefully, pulling threads of flame from nearby torches and weaving them into intricate patterns. "Fire isn't destruction," she said. "It's transformation, warmth, passion. You must understand it to live here." Cale watched, fascinated. "Show me again. Your hand movement there." She stepped closer, guiding his hands through the motion. Her touch was warm, gentle. "Like this. Feel the energy, don't force it." For a moment, they stood close enough that he could see flecks of gold in her crimson eyes. She pulled away quickly, clearing her throat. "You're a quick learner. Most humans can't even sense the energy." Their conversations grew longer, more personal. She told him about feeling trapped by royal expectations, about loving astronomy but rarely having time for it. He shared stories of his travels, of sleeping under stars, of choosing knowledge over comfort. One evening, while reviewing palace records together, Valdara's expression shifted. "Kale, look at this." She pointed to maintenance logs. The tower's protective wards were disabled 2 days before the fire. "That's not mentioned in any official report." Kale leaned closer, scanning the documents. "And these purple flames, they're not natural to your kingdom, are they?" "No." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They are summoned. Which means someone deliberately tried to kill me, and the court is covering it up." Their eyes met, and Kale saw fear mixed with determination. Without thinking, he covered her hand with his. "Then we find out who. Together." She didn't pull away this time. Instead, her fingers intertwined with his, and for the first time since his arrival, her smile reached her eyes. Secrets in the Ember Court. The investigation required discretion. Kale's outsider status became an advantage. Courtiers dismissed him as the curious human, harmless and naive. He listened to gossip in servants' quarters while Valdara used her royal access to examine restricted records. They met secretly in the palace library after midnight, sharing discoveries by candlelight. Kale noticed how Valdara's guard dropped during these meetings, how she laughed more freely, how her luminosity brightened when he entered the room. "Lord Zython has been petitioning the Queen for increased military authority," Valdara whispered one night, spreading documents across an ancient table. "His from the old bloodline, believes humans contaminate our kingdom. If I died without heirs, succession laws would favor his family." Kale studied her face in the flickering light. A strand of hair had escaped her braid, and without thinking, he reached to tuck it behind her ear. She froze at the gesture, her breath catching. "Sorry," he murmured, suddenly aware of the intimacy. "I didn't mean." "Don't apologize." Her hand caught his, holding it against her cheek. Her skin radiated gentle warmth. "I've been trying to maintain distance, to keep this arrangement purely political. But you make that impossible, Kale Thorne." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "You think I'm not struggling with the same thing? I came here for books and ancient knowledge. Instead, I found someone who sees stars the way I do, who questions everything, who's brave enough to investigate her own attempted murder." She leaned closer, her eyes searching his. "This complicates everything." "I know. The court will say you're manipulating me for power. I know that too. And I don't care anymore." She closed the distance, pressing her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, testing boundaries. Then Valdara's hand slid into his hair, and Kale pulled her closer, feeling the warmth radiating from her body. She tasted like cinnamon and smoke, and when they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "We should stop," Valdara whispered against his mouth, even as she kissed him again. "Absolutely should," Kale agreed, trailing kisses along her jaw to the sensitive spot below her ear. She gasped softly, her fingers tightening on his shoulders. They continued their research with frequent, delicious interruptions, stolen kisses between document reviews, lingering touches while discussing evidence. By dawn, they'd confirmed Zython's connection to the assassination attempt and discovered something more. They were falling genuinely, dangerously in love. Walking back through the gardens as sunrise painted the sky, Kale held her hand openly for the first time. "Whatever happens with the investigation, whatever the court thinks, this is real for me." Valdara stopped, turning to face him fully. Her entire body glowed brighter, emotions manifesting as light. "Then we see this through. Together. We expose Zython, we survive whatever comes next, and we decide our own fate." She kissed him again, soft and sweet, a promise and a declaration. In the distance, early-rising servants pretended not to notice their future princess choosing her own happiness, and for once, Cale felt like he truly belonged in this impossible, magical kingdom. The trial of living fire. The evidence against Lord Zython was damning but circumstantial. When they presented their findings to Queen Myrithis, she listened with an unreadable expression. Zython stood across the throne room, his silver hair blazing with indignant fire, his supporters flanking him like an army. Accusations from a lovesick princess and her pet human. Zython's voice dripped contempt. Your Majesty, this is clearly a ploy to legitimize their scandalous union. The girl sees conspiracy where there is only tragic accident. The Queen's eyes flickered between her daughter and the noble. The law requires proof beyond doubt for treason charges. Without it, I cannot act against a High Lord. Valdara stepped forward, her spine straight despite her trembling hands. Then I invoke my right to the trial of living fire. If I emerge proven, Zython must face judgment. If I fail... She swallowed hard. The accusations are dismissed. The court erupted in whispers. The trial was ancient, brutal, a test that required entering the sacred flame chambers beneath the palace, where illusions and physical challenges tested worthiness. Many who entered never returned. Cale grabbed her arm. Valdara, no. There has to be another way. She met his eyes, and he saw absolute determination. This is the only way to force the truth. Our evidence isn't enough, but the flames cannot lie. Then I'm coming with you. When she opened her mouth to protest, he continued firmly, the marriage binds us. Your trial is my trial. Besides, his voice softened, I didn't survive one fire just to lose you to another. Queen Myrithis nodded slowly. So be it. At dawn, they enter together. That night, Valdara came to Cale's chambers. She wore a simple robe, her hair loose around her shoulders, her expression vulnerable in the candlelight. I needed to see you. In case. Don't. He pulled her inside, closing the door. We're both walking out of there. She moved into his arms, resting her head against his chest. I'm frightened. The trial shows your deepest fears, forces you to confront what you've buried. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Cale tilted her chin up, kissing her forehead, then her closed eyelids, then her lips with aching tenderness. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You face assassination plots, investigate conspiracies, and challenge ancient laws. Whatever those flames show us, we face it together. They held each other through the night, sharing whispered fears and promises, kisses that tasted like desperation and hope. When dawn broke, they walked hand in hand toward the chamber entrance, a massive door carved with ancient warnings. Inside, the heat was immediate and overwhelming. The chamber was vast, filled with columns of flame that reached toward an unseen ceiling. As they stepped forward, the fires shifted, forming shapes. Cale's first illusion materialized, his father, who'd called his research worthless, telling him he'd never belong anywhere. The flames captured every detail, every dismissive gesture. Valdara squeezed his hand, her presence anchoring him. He was wrong, she said firmly. You belong here. With me. The illusion dissolved. Then Valdara gasped as her own nightmare formed, the tower fire, but this time Cale burned alive trying to save her, screaming her name. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Cale knelt beside her, forcing her to look at him. I'm here. I'm real. That didn't happen. He kissed her tears away, his hands cradling her face. Look at me, Valdara. I'm alive, and I'm not leaving you. She clung to him, and together they stood, facing the next trial. Physical challenges followed, walls of flame to pass through, bridges that crumbled, celestial beasts that attacked. Cale's back screamed where his burns hadn't fully healed, but Valdara supported him. When she faltered, exhausted from channeling protective shields, he carried her. In the final chamber, they faced the ultimate test, a mirror of flame showing Zython's conspiracy in vivid detail, his meetings with dark summoners, his sabotage of the Tower Wards, his plan to frame foreign rebels. The flames recorded truth, undeniable and absolute. They emerged at sunset, scorched and exhausted but triumphant, carrying the flame's testimony. The court waited in absolute silence as Queen Myrithis viewed the sacred fire's judgment. "The flames have spoken," the queen declared, her voice ringing with authority. "Lord Zython, you are guilty of attempted murder and treason." As guards seized the lord, Valdara collapsed into Kael's arms. He held her tightly, pressing his lips to her temple. "We did it," he whispered. "It's over." "No," she smiled against his shoulder. "It's just beginning." A new dawn rising. Zython's trial was swift. The flame's testimony was irrefutable, and by week's end, he and his co-conspirators were exiled beyond the kingdom's borders. But the conspiracy's exposure rippled through the court, forcing conversations that had been suppressed for generations. Queen Myrithis summoned Kael and Valdara to the throne room, now filled with the entire High Council. Kael's stomach tightened. After everything they'd endured, he couldn't shake the feeling that one more obstacle remained. The queen stood before her throne rather than sitting upon it, a deliberate choice that made her seem more human, more mother than monarch. "My daughter nearly died because of prejudice and fear of change. A human stranger showed more courage than our own nobles. The trial proved their bond genuine, their hearts worthy." She paused, scanning the assembled council. "It is time we questioned laws written in ages when the world was different." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some approving, others uncertain. "I propose we reform the marriage restrictions," Myrithis continued. "Not abandon our traditions, but evolve them. Allow unions between our people and worthy outsiders, judged by character rather than bloodline." Councillor Ferenna, an elder with flame-white hair, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this sets a precedent that could—" "That could what?" Valdara interrupted, moving to stand beside her mother. "Bring new strength to our kingdom?" "My husband-to-be faced the trial of living fire and emerged victorious. He solved a conspiracy our own court missed. If that's not worthy, what is?" Kael watched her defend their future, his heart swelling with pride and love. She glowed brilliantly, every inch a princess and yet completely herself, the woman who stargazed at midnight and laughed at his terrible jokes. The council debated for hours, but gradually, consensus formed. The old law would be amended. Unions would require proof of worthiness, but bloodline alone would no longer be the determining factor. 3 days later, the wedding took place in the palace gardens under a sky painted with aurora flames. Valdara wore a gown that shimmered like living embers, her hair woven with actual starlight. Kael wore traditional celestial ceremonial robes, feeling both foreign and somehow right. When the officiant asked for their vows, Valdara spoke first. "I promise to be your home in a world that once seemed impossible. To challenge you, support you, and love you through every transformation." Kael's voice was thick with emotion. "I promise to see you, not the princess, not the duty, but the woman who showed me that belonging isn't about where you're born, but who you choose to stand beside. I choose you, always." They sealed their vows with a kiss that drew cheers from the crowd. As they pulled apart, Valdara's flames danced along her skin in patterns of pure joy, and Kael realized his own hands were glowing faintly, a gift from the trial, a permanent mark of his acceptance by the sacred fires. The celebration lasted through the night. Kael danced with his wife under floating lanterns, her laughter like music. Queen Myrithis approached them during a quiet moment, her expression softer than he'd ever seen it. "Thank you for saving her," the queen said simply. "Not just from the fire, but from a life of duty without choice. You gave her freedom to be herself." Later, alone on their balcony overlooking the kingdom, Valdara leaned against Kael, his arms wrapped around her waist. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I came here searching for ancient knowledge," he murmured against her hair, "and found something infinitely more valuable. A home. A purpose. You." She turned in his arms, her eyes reflecting starlight. "The scholar who rewrites kingdoms with his presence. They'll tell stories about us, you know. Let them." He kissed her softly, then deeper, feeling her warmth merge with his own. "As long as our story continues, I don't care what they say." They stayed there until dawn, two souls from different worlds who'd chosen to create something new together, a love that transformed not just themselves, but an entire kingdom. And in the morning light, as the celestial Pyre Kingdom awakened to its first day of change, Cale Thorne knew he'd finally found what he'd been searching for all along, a place where he truly belonged, and someone worth staying for. The beginning of everything, sparked by flames and sealed with forever. The end.